Hey everyone, it's Dexum, and here's the ranking video for ranks 1 through 10. Doctor Strange is both simple and complex for many different reasons. As a new player, you'll find his pre-30 gameplay to be filled with heavy AoE damage, damage over time, and astral projection summons. After 30, Doctor Strange opens up to a heavy critical damage dealer, with talents like Mystic Rejuvenation and Sun and Shadow. He's also one of the strongest summoners, with talents like Flame and Frost and Seal of Hogoth. But he can also be a heavy single target monster with Daggers of Davroth and high critical hit and brutal strike ratings. There are so many ways to put out immense damage numbers, and that's also why Doctor Strange places here. His versatility is a blessing and a curse. While new players will find him powerful and easy to pass all content with, to be as effective as possible, you really need to spend some time on understanding his mysticism mechanic. Once you do, he opens up as far as damage potential, and all of his builds become magically delicious. Thor may not have any guaranteed brutal hits, but that doesn't stop him from being a complete powerhouse. For the new player, you may find some slow energy restoration problems initially, but after 20, he starts to take shape with additional movement powers, some strong range damage, and a talent tree that has several ways to better synergize his abilities. While Thor does have several guaranteed critical hits, many of his abilities just hit really hard. If you play a heavy brutal strike build with him, the damage he can do will certainly surprise you. Once you have a good build down, feel free to play around with Berserker Rage, which is a fun damage option for the advanced player. Thor places where he does primarily because of his poor early Odin Force generation, and also because it seems his best builds are hybrid ranged melee builds, which may disappoint some looking for a purely ranged Thor character. Rocket Raccoon is my surprise addition to the top 10 here, and there were a few reasons he pushed out some of the other characters. What Rocket lacks in raw damage numbers, he makes up with virtually unrivaled sustained summon damage. With your buddy Groot always on call to take aggro and provide damage and support, that leaves Rocket with the opportunity to run around placing turrets, dropping AoE munitions, or laying down heavy channel damage. One of my other favorite things about Rocket is most of his summons can be set while moving, and he's a fantastic run and gun character. He places where he does on this list because his plasma ammo resource can deplete quickly with some builds. And also, you'll have to gear him for heavy critical and brutal chance to get the most out of him, as he doesn't have any of them inherently. Still, he's one of my personal favorites with superb playability and rather enjoyable dialogue. While we're on the topic of favorites, SheHulk tops my list as the most fun character to play. Everything about her is enjoyable, from her heavy damage and brutal strike ability, to her crowd control, to her summons, most especially her high movement skills. I also feel like SheHulk is severely underplayed. Her talents synergize so well with several builds, it really feels like the developers thought her through thoroughly. While SheHulk uses combo points like Daredevil and Luke Cage, she is really the only character that I feel gains and spends combo points organically, without requiring much thought in the process. SheHulk places here on the list because she has high damage, superb crowd control with Hostile Witness, a very strong signature with a low cooldown, guaranteed criticals and brutal strikes, and exceptional movement abilities. Where she can lack is in sustained damage, as she's the most fun when you hit hard and keep moving. And also, her combo points can take a little getting used to, albeit less so than other characters with similar mechanics. Few characters can do AoE damage the way Storm can do AoE damage. Several of her abilities, including her signature, put out insane amounts of damage, covering the majority of the viewing area, making Storm an amazing option for high-level farming. Storm also has a team heal and a team invisibility, which can also make her a solid choice in group settings. Another fantastic reason to use Storm is that her abilities are mostly always available for use, apart from cooldowns or the one-off situation where you need a full Tempest bar. However, once you fill the Tempest bar, it will slowly decay, but buff your dodge, attack speed, movement speed, and damage by 20%. With so much AoE and damage over time, critical hit and brutal chance builds will make her one of the highest sustained damage characters you can play. On a side note, and not to downplay this, but she also has great crowd control. As a beginner, Storm is easy to play. and once she's max level, her strength only intensifies. She really places here due to being somewhat squishy, and that her early game feels a little slow. She also doesn't have any inherent brutal strikes, but aside from that, she's a smart buy. If you're new to the game and wondering why there are so many Scarlet Witches running around, there's one simple answer: instant kills. I could mince words and talk about how varied and strong her chaos builds can be. I can tell you about how she has some unique and strange abilities or high crowd control potential, but in the end, most people think of her as a farming character due to chaos overload, chaos rift, and unmake reality. In the broadest terms, post-30 gameplay that isn't boss related is a non-issue, with the only major challenge you'll encounter being the cosmic trial. She places here because while some will tell you that her boss killing ability is poor, that isn't the case. What her main problem is consistency. She has some abilities that can hit from 35 damage to 7,000 damage depending on rolls. This means heavy critical and brutal pressure is needed, and using Chaos Overload to the best of its ability on bosses won't always be the same kind of build you use for farming. That being said, Scarlet Witch's set is a farmer's paradise. She's arguably a must-buy. When you play Spider-Man, you web things. When you play Wolverine, you cut stuff. So naturally, when you play Hulk, you smash everything. Hulk is a low-cost, highly rewarding, heavy brutal damage character. He has several guaranteed brutal strikes that will increase exponentially with brutal and critical damage bonuses. He has several movement abilities, and his anger mechanic not only increases his damage and defense, but it can even stave off death, making Hulk one tough character to kill. Hulk is placed here because he's crazy strong, versatile, with massive AoE brutal strikes, and nearly unkillable. But for heavy sustained damage, you'll have to be in melee range, and most of the time rooted in place. And for most characters, that can be a death sentence, but not for Hulk. The ease of play really helps new players excel, and makes content skull-smashingly easy. For 200 Eternity Splinters, there is nothing stopping you from giving him a shot. Like Hulk, Angela is a heavy, brutal character. Though she has substantially less brutal AoE potential than Hulk, Angela's primary resource, Heaven's Wrath, allows Angela to plan out her brutals and spam them for heavy burst brutal damage that can add up fast. On top of that, her Hypnotic Ribbons give you a constant AoE confusion ability for the entirety of its duration, making her a prime candidate for clearing bosses in Midtown or having them clear each other. Angela's skills can also vary for several strong damage and movement related builds, though most people will want to focus on her brutal axe abilities. She places here for her exceptional burst brutal output, as well as her versatility in the ways of crowd control. She has very few sore spots, some of which are, when leveling her ribbons can sometimes aggro mobs you didn't intend on fighting. Also, for her maximum effectiveness, players will need to watch her Heaven's Wrath bar closely. Angela has come a long way from her Image comic days, and she's quite possibly the 200 Eternity Splinters Best Buy character. On the PC version, Blade was known as the best kept secret, but on the console, the secret is out. There are so many reasons to play Blade, but if I had to sum it up in 3 words, they would be one-hit kills. Blade has the strongest signature in the game, that guarantees a very strong brutal strike that has been known to hit for more than 9 million damage, easily killing Cosmic Ops bosses in a single use. What's even more impressive is that his signature can pierce, doing that kind of heavy damage in a straight line in front of you. In the interim, while you wait for his signature cooldown, he has several useful abilities like Whiplash that lets you attack while moving and applies damage over time. Plus, Blade has a talent called Patient Hunter, which decreases his signature by half a second for each cooldown power you use, making it possible for a very low cooldown on my namesake. Why Blade is in this spot is because his thirst mechanic can be both a blessing and a curse for new players. As thirst increases, Blade can go into Bloodlust, draining his health until he uses Serum, which will remove Bloodlust and also heal Blade. It will also give him a modest bonus. While that will undoubtedly help as new players progress, brand new players may have a hard time at first managing his Serum. Undoubtedly though, all players will find Blade fun and rewarding, a definite must-buy. What makes a number 1 character? Is it all about damage? Is it about survivability? crowd control, ease of play. Iceman excels in all of these things. He's a summoner, a crowd control powerhouse, a heavy sustained damage dealer with strong AoE and burst damage potential. He's easy for new players with zero energy spirit issues. His summons can put out high damage while taunting and taking aggro. His signature covers a large area, applying crowd control and doing heavy damage. Iceman is a character that doesn't do anything good. He does everything great. While he may not be the best at any one thing, he's an amalgamation of everything you'll need to easily pass all content in one easy-to-use character. Iceman isn't without his faults though, but luckily for us, all his faults can be fixed by simply lowering his dialogue volume. Yes, his one major flaw is his overly annoying, repeated dialogue. Whether you're a new or experienced player, Iceman is there to get you through the toughest content with ease. Thank you all for taking the time to watch my rankings of all the console Marvel Heroes Omega characters. As balance changes and new characters become available, I will make changes to the rankings as necessary. Thanks again, and I'll see you in game.